Dubai's secondary market for pre-owned properties is a great place to look for your future home or investment property. The question is, how long before you can complete the transaction on the property and become the fully fledged registered owner? I'm Tahir Majithia, a real estate consultant in Dubai, and today I'm going to be answering the frequently asked question, how long does it take to complete a transaction on a secondary market property in Dubai? Before I get into the biggest factor, let me start with two common scenarios which can delay your transaction. Firstly, are both the buyer and seller available in the country or their power of attorney? If not, you'll have to wait for this to be the case. And remember, the power of attorney, if applicable, has to be registered with the UAE government. Secondly, what is the vacancy status of the property? If you're buying the property as vacant on transfer, then you need to factor in the time required by the seller to get the property vacated. Once you have this figured out, now you need to look at the biggest factor, which is a cash sale versus a mortgage sale. So as a general rule of thumb, there are four simple scenarios. Scenario 1. If the buyer is buying with cash and does not require a mortgage, and the seller selling their property does not have a mortgage to clear, this transaction typically takes 7 days to complete. Scenario 2. If the buyer is buying with ready cash and the seller has a mortgage to clear, this transaction typically takes about 14 days to complete. Scenario 3. If the buyer is buying with a mortgage and the seller does not have any mortgage to clear, typically this transaction would take about 4 to 5 weeks to complete. And now finally, scenario 4. If the buyer is buying with a mortgage and the seller has a mortgage to clear, typically this transaction would take anywhere between 5 to 6 weeks to complete. So these are generic timelines and can vary on a case-by-case basis. But the biggest factor to remember is that if there's a mortgage involved, it means more paperwork and longer turnaround times, which tend to add up. I hope this information was helpful. As always, if you have a scenario which you want to discuss or you want to ask your own questions, please feel free to reach out to me on tahir@trustedhomesdubai.com or send me a DM on any of my social media handles. I'll be happy to help, and I hope to see you in Dubai very soon.